The Mandalorian, the latest live-action Star Wars thing we are getting. Disney Plus is officially dropped. I woke up at 4 a.m. with Maddie this morning to give it a watch, and it's pretty cool. Her and I are going to do a full Disney Plus review Wednesday, but speaking specifically on The Mandalorian, this will be a spoiler-free review up to a point, and then I will give you a clear warning before I transition into spoilers. But here are my spoiler-free thoughts. It's good. This is the breadth the Star Wars universe needs, and let me expand on that. Star Wars is a franchise that has felt incredibly constrained to me, to the one storyline it's been following in the movies. We've seen some growth in the animated shows, and of course there's the books, but most of those aren't even considered canon anymore. But live-action Star Wars has never really been able to take the deep breaths it needs to grow its world to feeling like it actually has levels to it, and it's not just this beeline story. The Mandalorian is supplying that. We are getting angles to the Star Wars universe that many of us thought we were going to get in Rogue One, but didn't necessarily, and got glimpses of in Solo, but not enough to really satiate the seedy underbelly of Star Wars we've always known exists ever since A New Hope. Now we're finally living in it, and boy oh boy, is it well worth the wait and payoff. That is where The Mandalorian shines. It's world building, also it's cinematography and sound design, of course. It's Star Wars, you have to have magnificent sound design, the bar is so high for that. But every shot in this show looks gorgeous. Where it falls apart a little bit for me, and I'm not saying it's bad, there's just criticisms to be had here. The Mandalorian's dialogue has issues already at times. They're trying to go for the stoic, quiet, badass, and that's really, really hard to pull off, because in a pilot, which is the most difficult episode of a show to go with, it's really hard to introduce a world, engage an audience, introduce characters. They're failing on that front in my mind, because we know nothing about this guy. They're counting on you being hooked on him based on the fact that he's a Mandalorian, and we see he's cool, but we know nothing about his motivations. We get some quick flashbacks that may motivate him a bit, but I do not feel engaged by him as a character. I feel engaged by the world. So A+ for world, C- for main character, but they can absolutely make up for that in future episodes. Now, there's a very obvious question that needs to be asked here as well. Disney, when they bought Star Wars, showed from their first entry, The Force Awakens, that they were going to be very dependent on harkening back to previous Star Wars, trying to build your investment through that to increase their popularity, to show they care and love it. You know, nostalgia for the win for the audience is basically their mantra when it comes to Star Wars. And with The Mandalorian, I feel like Disney has finally found the delicate balance of using nostalgia, but growing from the references. And that kind of, again, goes back to the world building I was talking about. We get things that are obvious callbacks, but we're seeing either a new side of them or presented in a different way, where as the viewer, while I may be seeing a similar thing, I feel like I'm actually experiencing something new because of how it's framed. And that is where this show is going to find its success if they manage to keep this vibe going. Minor spoiler warning. Prime example, not much of a spoiler, but there's one scene where a Mandalorian is looking through some binoculars, and you can tell what's happening. They're setting this up, it's very clear, something's gonna pop up in the binoculars. And it does. Like a harkening back to A New Hope, when the sand people jump up in the binoculars, it scares the crap out of Luke. So that kind of reference is happening. But again, it's something new, it's presented differently, and it actually serves a purpose and feels natural to what's going on. So good job there. I still wish it was maybe a little bit less, but here at least it is still something where I'm able to pull away new things from it. So transitioning into full-on spoilers, we're going to go into spoiler mode here. And 3, 2, 1, starting right now. I'm going to get one of my few other criticisms out of the way, and this is a major nitpick, but it's a pet peeve of mine, and I have to speak on it. There's a scene where a guy runs up to the Mandalorian during a firefight. He has the drop on him. He is coming from behind. And instead of hitting the Mandalorian, instead of tackling him or shooting him, because apparently everyone has guns with this guy, he does that on his shoulder. He goes, "Hey, stop." And of course he gets shot and dies as a result. Why was that his instinct? Why didn't he even at least tackle him? It's just, I know with fight choreography, you just have to, like, plot armor. It's what's going to be. But to me, it was just, why was that the direction? Why was it, stop? Why? So that did annoy me a bit. But moving on from there, everything else about this scene I really loved. It felt like an old Western shootout, and that was the vibe they were going for, and they pinned it perfectly. The robot that's introduced, voiced by Taika Waititi, fabulous, great humor. The real actual laughs that came out for me from this episode were pretty much all from him. And then the big unveil at the ending with the Yoda creature being shown to us. To quote Maddie, Cutest goddamn thing ever, and I agree. Holy smokes. And that ending alone was enough to hook me to come back, but add in the world building on top of that, add in the good action, add in the incredible costume design, the set designs, everything. I'm here for Mandalorian. I'm down. I think it is a watch. Go ahead and watch it, is my review, and it's worth this show alone is worth the cost of Disney Plus every month. That's my takeaway from Mandalorian, even though I did have some criticisms. But let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below. Like and subscribe if you have not already, and go ahead, we're going to transition into my review of Episode 2 of the His Dark Materials adaptation now. Okay, Episode 2 of His Dark Materials, the BBC/HBO adaptation of the YA phenomena from Philip Pullman. The first episode, I was pretty much across the board positive on. I had a couple nitpicks, but it's been really well critically reviewed so far. There was one criticism that kind of made waves among the fantasy community, and that was the lack of demons, which seems to have actually been compensated for here. I'm not implying that they went back and did last-minute full CGI additions of demons. No, that's crazy. It just happens that this episode does feature many more demons, just in the background, out and about, they're there. And there is also an excuse within the actual episode of why they're not always out and about, where the character actually says, we don't always feel the need to show off our demons, as his is close to his body. So, Episode 1, very well praised. If that's the biggest nitpick people have, then it's going to be great. Episode 2, I'm a little more cold on, but still very positive. Now, the reason I'm a little bit colder on it is now that we're getting more just subtle acting from these characters, the flaws of a child actor are emerging. The girl who plays Lyra has had a couple lines, a couple bit of delivery that to me just don't feel entirely natural. They feel a bit out of place. And of course, with child actor, that's a little bit unavoidable. They just can't be perfect up to par, especially scenes with more of the children have been little tiny things where it's like, did you really understand that dialogue, or are you just saying it? And for those of you who've taken acting classes, you know what I'm talking about, the difference between reading dialogue and acting it. And as I previously said, there are more demons in this episode, but that's actually related to my next biggest criticism. To me, reading His Dark Materials, the best relationship in it, or one of the best, was between Lyra and her demon. It was great to see that chemistry. They had wonderful conversations. So far in this BBC adaptation of Philip Pullman's masterpiece, her demon has pretty much just said advice, said things, and never had any character building whatsoever. They bicker a tiny bit back and forth, but I'm still waiting for that relationship dynamic to form and build. I mean, there's cute things like she throws her pillow at him to get him to hush, but nothing that's blowing out of the screen to me as, oh, this is phenomenal, this is the greatest thing, I'm so loving their relationship and how deep it is. No, pretty much not at all. But that's really where my criticisms of Episode 2 end. Episode 2 really did step up the intrigue as well. I was nervous to see how we're going to handle the world hopping. By the way, spoiler warning, if you're watching this review of a TV show that's been out for a day, obviously, spoilers, it's streaming online, just go watch it. Mrs. Coulter is still the best performance by far, and her character has me just constantly wanting to know more. Even though I know the character from the books, I'm still just fascinated by this actress's performance, her choices. I think she is absolutely nailing the role. And the Ministry's presence is building and has me so intrigued. The intrigue here is great. I love how the mystery from the books is coming to life. And I don't know, everything here was well done. I felt the suspense in the scenes where Lyra's breaking into her study. I felt the trauma of the revelations Lyra went through here, although the child acting did bug me a bit in that scene as well. And I feel bad. I feel like I'm insulting a literal child, which I kind of am, and it's unavoidable in this process. But that stuck out to me. It's just that the emotion wasn't on the level I feel like it needed to be. But again, these are small things. I'm pulling at the few criticisms I have because this is a review. Overall, I still do find Daphne and Keen's performance good. They're doing nice cliffhangers at the end of the episodes that feel earned, where, okay, I'm interested, let's go. And my biggest piece of curiosity for this show, though, up to this point, is how the people who have read the books are perceiving the mystery, the intrigue, versus those who haven't. Because I'm still engaged, even though I know all the beats of this plot, assuming they're sticking to the plot accurately to the books. And I'm really wanting to spend more time with the Egyptians. They're brilliant, and the build-up we are having with them, the investigation, the figuring things out, well, it's not like grand and epic and super detailed. We're kind of getting glimpses as they move along. I really want the focus to shift there. And obviously, knowing the story a bit, we have quite a bit of excitement in both plot lines to come, and I'm ready for it. Now, I put a poll on my channel yesterday asking you guys, do you want to see me do episode by episode reviews, or would you like me to stick to just reviewing the first episode and then the full season after the show is over for this season? And if you wouldn't mind, please do go to that poll real quick. I'll have it linked down below, and let me know your thoughts, because I think this is kind of an important decision for me to make. And there are some shows I'm going to review the entire thing always, no matter what. Wheel of Time, Witcher, probably King Killer after that show finally comes out. For sure, Lord of the Rings as well. But for ones that aren't quite as big for my audience, would you like to see me just do one episode and then the whole season? Go let me know in the poll I have up there. Anyway, let me know in the comments down below what you thought of this episode for the His Dark Materials adaptation. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Let me know, and I look forward to the discussion. Like and subscribe if you have not already. Hit the Patreon if you want to support what I do here. Have a good one, y'all. Peace.